Steve Bucci was military assistant to Defense Secretary Rumsfeld, and he says there is no strategy. Steve, listening to President Obama, it feels to, in a way, maybe he was agreeing with you, but then saying that now they're getting it together. Now they've ratcheted up the help. They sent advisors. They're helping with assets, including attack helicopters and B-52s. They've targeted cities, and they hit targets quickly, saying over 13,000 strikes have been made. Are they moving in the right direction at least?
They're moving in the right direction, but they started so poorly and so impotently that the incremental changes they're making now, it may actually be too little too late to really have the effect I think we need to have, and the kind that the president, I believe, would like to have. It's just not doing it yet.
So with Fallujah surrounded and Mosul, the noose, to borrow the word that President Obama used a few times, the noose being tightened on Mosul, do you see the chance perhaps that we could actually go in for the kill? Forget about this containment stuff. Go in there and actually defeat and eradicate the enemy. And many say if we do that, it would actually help us here at home, because that eliminates the caliphate argument and diminishes them in the eyes of would-be homegrown terrorists.
Oh, I'm one of the people that have said that. The recruitment value of ISIS standing up to us, and despite the fact that we may have slapped them around, we may have caused them some damage, but they're still standing in the eyes of would-be recruits or independent actors like the guy in Orlando, is that they're still standing. To them, that's a victory. Unless you crush these guys and crush them convincingly so these adherents don't believe they have the blessing of Allah on them, they're going to keep recruiting people, and we're going to continue to see the lone wolves that we've seen most recently this past weekend.
Steve, how do we crush them? How do we finally finish this once and for all? What's your recipe?
Well, we have been saying since the beginning we have not advocated reinvading Iraq. We don't think that's either necessary or acceptable to our populace, but we should have put in those special operations forces in much greater numbers, much earlier.
I know what you're saying, what we should have done, but what do we do right now? If you had the heir of the next president, what would your game plan be to finish this fight off once and for all?
I would ratchet up the air campaign tremendously. The idea of 10 sorties in one day being, intense airstrikes is nonsense. We're talking 200 to 300 airstrikes a day, controlled by American forces on the ground, the special operations forces with the locals. That gives you a shot at crushing these guys. Right now, it's going to be at least a year before we get into Mosul, and probably longer than that before you clear it. That's insufficient.
Steve Bucci, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're getting